Hey everybody, welcome back. It's day 23 of the Civil Rights Movement knowledge cards put out by the Library of Congress in honor of Black History Month. And yes, it's March 23rd, so you're like, what the heck are you doing? Well, of course, as I explained in other videos of the series, started this in February, but as I got busy with work, couldn't keep up with it in February, so I'm playing catch up here in March. And I am picking one of these cards a day and reading them and discussing them and my reaction to them and what I already knew and what I didn't know. There's some people that I had drew here that I did not know at all. There are wonderful pictures. This is what we drew yesterday, the Selma campaign. And on the back there is a little write-up. So I'll read that. And these are the ones that I've drawn. So they're flipped over. See, these are the ones we haven't done. So when I get to that, that means so after tomorrow, we'll be halfway through the deck on the 24th. So these are the ones we haven't done. I will shuffle them 3 times. It's getting thinner and thinner. And we will do 31 days instead of the 28 days in February because we're in March. A couple bonus days, 3 bonus days. And, we'll pick up the rest of the 17 because there's 48 in total of this deck. We'll pick up the 17 later on down the line. But until then, I'm going to shuffle 3 times. I've already done it once. So here we go, 2 more times. And hope everyone out there is doing well. I know with the war in Ukraine, it's going pretty crazy. And, speaking of justice, we're seeing racism at the border as refugees of people that are foreign exchange students or immigrants from other areas that are Black, African descent, not being accepted as refugees in bordering countries. So that's sort of something we can look at in an international sense, in a foreign sense. But really, this deck is about specifically the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s, a little bit of precursor, talks a little bit about Jim Crow Reconstructionism and the rise of the Ku Klux Klan and things like that in the 20s and 30s, 40s, a little bit of wartime, but mainly 50s and 60s. So now that I've shuffled 3 times, without further ado, I'm going to pick one of these cards. And today we picked the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. In 1960, Ella Baker called for a national student conference in Raleigh, North Carolina, to organize the spontaneous sit-ins spreading throughout the South. 300 students formed the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, and following Baker's advice, maintained their independence from the established civil rights groups. SNCC formed the front lines of nonviolent confrontation. Julian Bond, then SNCC communications director, characterized these students, shock troops, as the band of brothers and circle of trust. The young people who worked for SNCC described themselves as organizers. They didn't register voters. They organized the unregistered to register themselves. They didn't integrate lunch counters. They organized a protest that forced the seats open. This photograph shows SNCC activists Bob Zellner, Bernice Reagan, Cordell Reagan, Dottie Miller Zellner, and Avon Rollins in Danville, Virginia, where demonstrators were clubbed and fire-hosed as they prayed at City Hall in June of 1963. So, crazy to think that they were doing this and, conducting a prayer while people were being fire-hosed and clubbed. But they, persevered and carried on, and then, the important note to say that, they're essentially saying that they were the catalyst for these movements. They organized people, they taught people, they educated people, and then they empowered those people to then act upon the knowledge that they gave them. They didn't tell them what to do. They didn't oversee them. They didn't micromanage them. And this isn't to critique any other movement out there, but just to sort of, remind ourselves how the SNC were involved. And, I think it's an important distinction to note that they were a separate entity than, say, Dr. Martin Luther King's camp, or of course Malcolm X's camp, or all the other parties involved. Um, but they were the catalyst, and they were the driving force behind a lot of things that happened for integration, for desegregation, for more equality, for the Voters' Right Act. Um, a very, very significant organization, and I'd be curious to know if anyone out there was a part of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. And as you can see from the picture too, what's very powerful about it is it was interracial, and I'm pretty sure it was interfaith as well. So I think that's important, is to not self-segregate in the movement, is to try and come together and have allies across racial divide or ethnic divide, and that's really how we can achieve rather than separate but equal, right? So this is day 23 of the Civil Rights Knowledge Cards put out by the Library of Congress. What is your reaction, and what is your, again, leave a comment. Do you have any knowledge or firsthand experience with the SNCC? Maybe your parents or someone in your family was involved, or maybe you just remember it of the time, and you grew up in the area, and you grew up in that time, and you remember it, and the groundswell that it caused. So anyways, I hope you enjoy these videos. Stay tuned tomorrow for the 24th and the 24th day of the Knowledge Cards. I'm Sam from Viral Media Network. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. Be well to each other, be kind, and love thy neighbor. Peace.